we're going to roll back to some Cardinals conversations because we were talking about Nolan Gorman's hot streak. And today's a good day to be talking about that because Cardinals are off today, but there's an arrival down at Busch Stadium, and that is Nolan Aronado is back in St. Louis.
Is he?
So that's apparently what that's apparently what I heard this morning.
Okay.
So Nolan Arenado's back in St. Louis. Nolan Gorman has finally hit a mesh point where his approach to the plate and his approach in the field are both things you want to see from him going into next year. But the future Hall of Famer is under contract. What do you think will happen? What do you think should happen? And why do you think there's a discrepancy between those two?
Yeah, now I'm just seeing from yesterday, Ollie was sharing that Aronado would be back in town by last night. Going to be examined by team doctors today. If cleared, as expected, he will go through batting practice and fielding drills on Friday, but he will have a rehab assignment. So, okay, that's the update on that. It's hard to, and look, there are people who would have said, I don't think Arenado is going to play a game again this year for the Cardinals. And there was a point in time where I wondered that myself. Him coming back to St. Louis and going through batting practice and everything seems to indicate that he's going to play. I mean, if he's going to bother going on a rehab stint for a veteran of his caliber, you know, he's going to be back before too long. That's going to be good eating, by the way, for the minor league guys when Arenado's there. Like a lot of times, I think Gorman got a food truck one time, like a taco truck, and I imagine Nolan is gonna do it right. But when we think about next year, I don't know where he fits. I don't know where he fits when you think about like what the Cardinals are liable to be aiming to do, which is like they want to win and do well, but they're still kind of working through the pieces and parts of what the next iteration of the team's going to be.
You might not hear it because maybe they're going to get smart optically, but next year is another year where if everyone wasn't tainted about the word, you'd be hearing the word runway a lot again.
Yeah, they're going to have to pick a different word.
They're going to have to pick a different word, but it's going to be the same thing.
Well, I don't know that it's
a similar thing.
I don't know that it's like the runway was to determine who to move forward with, right?
What if now it's just runway for more runway for development?
I think you just go. I call it the installation of the guys that you picked. Who are they going to pick? You could come up with a whole list of names, and I could make cases for and against just about all of them. Lars Nootbaar, all right, hasn't been able to stay healthy is kind of the case against him. Has a little bit of cachet to his name to where if you traded him, you might get something of value. Versus, the StatCast numbers, the on-base ability when he's going right. Like there's maybe more in the tank that hasn't been discovered. You could, I do that with Nootbaar. You could do it with 4 or 5 other guys. Brendan Donovan, I think, is one of their best players, but therefore it means he's got some of the highest trade value. And if you're trying to find a place to put Weatherholt, and if you think Gorman is third base eligible for you next year, then Weatherholt maybe fits in at second if you can get a king's ransom for Donovan. You could make a for and against case for a lot of guys in this position player group, and they're going to have to pick some. The Arenado one almost it feels like it should be a foregone conclusion because he wants to win. This team is not probably going to go out and add marquee free agents to maximize their chances to win in 2026. It's sort of like a foundational year of, all right, we did the runway. We're kind of going to decide who to move forward with of our controllable talent. And then maybe we'll add to it here and there to make ourselves a requisite team that can compete to have a 500 season, 85 wins. Maybe you sneak into the wild card, but that's not the goal anymore, is to like maximize free agency to get to that point, because they tried that a number of years and it just didn't work. So now you have to get to a point where you're comfortable going, we're going to roll out the younger players that we have and see where that gets us. It's not really runway. These are the guys that are that make up the core of the team. How good are they to be able to advance us? And then we can maybe supplement at a certain point, and that's when our real window begins to open. Is Arenado going to be here during that window? I'm skeptical of that because he's only got 2 years left on the contract anyway, and we don't know what 2027 is going to look like in MLB. So if there's a team out there that says, oh, you know what, where Arenado is in his career makes a lot of sense for us, that would make a lot of sense for Chaim Bloom to explore, and then give Arenado the straight up, like, it's probably this, or we can't necessarily guarantee everyday playing time next year. And I don't know that they would ever do that, where they would say, hey, we're going to keep you, but we're not going to play you with all the money that you're being paid. But if Gorman can be somebody beyond 2027 that can help your team, like if he is a guy that plays his way into an extension, that's a different timeline than Arenado was on, and the Cardinals need to probably pick where they're heading with those guys.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cliches we can talk about, but refusing to give yourselves more flexibility because of a move that you made 5 years ago that's not working out now is, I guess it'd be.
What move are you referencing now?
Like I'm saying, making the move for Aronado.
Okay.
Worked in the moment.
Okay.
It's not working now. Letting it now handicap future things like Gorman's development is the height of stupidity or stubbornness or a blind spot. It's ignorance or arrogance one way or the other is my point. Because you simply have to be able and be willing, when you make the big move, you have to be willing to dump it if it doesn't work out after 3 or 4 years. You can't just keep putting the good money after, but you can't just keep putting in the more money into a lost situation because you don't want to accept the fact that it's not working out anymore. And that's what I'm saying. Stubbornness, ignorant. I'm not sure what it is. It's just they have to move on from the Aronado situation. Whether it's we have to eat the money for him to play for a different team, which they never want to do, whether they have to not play a baseball player that they're paying a lot of money, which they never want to do. They have to change the way they operate and stop being so just static and stuck in their ways. And I think this is a good example of a Cardinals team in flux, in an organization that has a chance to say, this is how we do things. Well, let's change the way we operate in a couple of ways. And this would be one way of saying sometimes you got to bite the bullet. And I think this would be a good time to do it, considering all the changes. Maybe financially, it's maybe the worst time to do it. That'd be a fair argument on the other side. I just think they're missing a chance to make a fairly obvious move at a good time to make it in a transition moment for the franchise.
Well, and that's part of it too, is a transitional moment where Chaim Bloom is coming in, taking over for Mo after this season. And you'd like to, give him the ability to mold the roster how he sees fit as quickly as possible. There's a lot of changes that may need to be made. And that's not just the active roster, but the 40-man as well, with guys that need to be protected from Rule 5. So there are a lot of things that are going to happen, and it would seem counterproductive unless they believe that Aronado can revive himself at the plate, which, I mean, if you look at this year's numbers, they're not great. He's got a 660 OPS, which is down from the 719 OPS that he had last year that people weren't super thrilled about. So unless this recent trip to Florida, gets him in a place strength-wise with the shoulder where we think some of that power is coming back in what will be his age 35 season. Again, I'm skeptical that you're going to see a markedly different version of Aronado at the plate than what you've seen the last 2 years. Maybe that's what September is going to be about when they get him back in there. You're going to be back to that conversation of, remember Gorman's been playing third base every day? Well, now he doesn't get to because Arenado's back, which is going to be tricky. But, maybe part of that is giving Aronado some runway to see, all right, is there anything different going on with this bat that can, A, compel us to bring him back next year rather than consider eating money? Or does it build a little bit of trade value for him if people, other teams around the league see him looking more like the version of himself that he has throughout his prime? I don't know that any of those things are particularly likely to happen, but it seems there's an opportunity over the next few weeks to explore that, and then, have all the information at your disposal when you go into the offseason deciding, is there a market for Aronado? And if there's not, how far are we willing to go to have a guy like Nolan Gorman, or if it's Weatherholt, get a chance at third base in 2026?
Missouri beat writer
You're not going to get it right, but it's Callum McAndrew.
I was going to say it right the first time, and I had no confidence in it. Callum McAndrew joins us here in a few minutes. Let's get to your chats before that. Pushing Daisies says, where does Aronado even go? The way he's been playing, he'd probably end up on a similar caliber team.
And he's got to accept a trade to that team, too. So, my thought would be, if there is, again, the teams like the Dodgers always seem to have, they have they have these lineups that are pretty top heavy, and I don't know what their plan will be for third base next year, but I'm looking at their lineup. Kike Hernandez played there yesterday. It's not like they're rotating third baseman recently. Yeah. I don't know if it's because of injury or what the deal, but Alex Freeland plays third base sometimes for them. They could do a lot worse than Aronado batting seventh and playing Gold Glove third base, which he still does,
especially against lefties.
Yeah,
where his OPS is still 750.
To me, I mean, he should end up with the Dodgers, which is probably what he wants in the first place. But the Dodgers will say, "Look, I mean, we're paying for the defense. The offense is a question at this point. We're not going to pay for a big chunk of that contract." And the Cardinals, I think, if this is something that's available to them, would have to be willing to eat some of the money.
You know, you go to them and you say, well, okay, look at it like the Ohtani contract. You guys paid him, this much money to be a hitter and this much money to be a pitcher. So we'll take $20 million of Aronado, and then you guys pay him $20 million to be a defensive player.
There you go.
So just come at.
We'll pay for the bat part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just come at them with their own mindset. I think it'll lock them in pretty solidly. Chris, we got Aronado says Aronado can go, or this could be Ben. Aronado can go back to Florida. Samuel House says Gorman doesn't have to play this month, guys. He's made the team. NATO is auditioning for future employment. It's a good way to look at it from Aronado's perspective, I guess. Smooth Productions. There isn't a fit for Aronado anymore on this team. We appreciate all he's done during his time, but it's come to an end. He also says that this is not the only tough decision the Cardinals have to make. They, especially with Bloom taking over, will have to make drastic changes. You can't just keep the same group of guys.
Yeah, I think that's what I would agree with as well, is that they need some significant changes, and how many of those changes you can make in one off season is tricky. Like, it's why I advocated to see some of those things happen at the end of July. Cardinals didn't get the offers they were hoping to see or maybe they weren't hoping, but that they would have needed to have seen in order to trade guys like Nootbaar or at the time Gorman, and now Gorman, performing a little bit better. And so, maybe they were right to hold on to those guys. Going to remain to be seen. Quick housekeeping. Did you give the link to Kellen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just needed to make sure that I forgot to ask him before. Sorry about that. Anyhow, yeah, how many guys can you realistically trade from a 40-man roster in one off season is going to be interesting to see, because will there be this tone of aggression after it's been sort of, we're wishy-washy when we do make trades. We're a little bit hesitant to do it. We don't want to make the wrong move. Will that still be an aspect of this, or will we completely see a change into, hey, these weren't my guys. I didn't draft these guys. I wasn't here for the bulk of their development. I can trade 3 or 4 of them and start to kind of remake this roster in the way that my group sees fit.
Jeremy Hodge, it will be 28 when they compete again. You and Randy did this last week, but I've also seen this over the last few days again popping up from people talking about the Cardinals' inability to rebound quickly over the next few years in this rebuild. Why are you not negative about the Cardinals' ability to rebuild quickly, or are you?
Well, because I don't think I think
hard in baseball.
They haven't lost a bunch of games. Like, they haven't ever really been a bad team other than 2023. That was a bad season, and the team was bad, and the results were bad. You lost 91 games. Last year, they went with the approach of, okay, we can fix this quickly. Let's make a few edits here. Let's add some pieces in free agency that we need, and we'll get it back into the postseason. And they fell a little bit short of that, just won 83 games that year. And that's when they said, okay, we do have to step back to step forward. And that's what we're seeing this year. But even in this year where they didn't sign anybody in the winter other than Phil Maton, and he's not here anymore, they basically were stagnant. And with that stagnant organization that we complain about so much and say, they're just so far away from being contenders, they're 500. They win tomorrow, they're a 500 team. They're 70-71. So they're not, they haven't had a run like the Pirates or, the Astros before they got good, or the Orioles. They haven't had that, and it doesn't feel like they'll need to have that in order to turn it back around, because they might be kind of close to their floor right now. You may have another year or two of that floor, but I feel like there are core pieces of this organization that will be around the next time they do it. To me, process-wise and development-wise and some of the stuff they did organizationally, you do need to completely gut it. But they're doing that. It just is taking a little bit longer because Mo is riding off into the sunset in a month rather than 8-9 months ago. That's all. I don't think they're as far away as people think.
One last question here, then we're going to get to Callum McAndrew, who's joining us right now. Samuel Halep says 7 because you threw out how many trades they can make from the 40-man roster.
7.
Give me the over-under. To not from 7. Give me your over-under.
Total trades
for people to wager on for Cardinals trades off the 40-man roster in this offseason.
Well, like number of players will be more.
Okay.
But the number of trade, because some of them will just be cut.
Yes, you want the actual moves we see.
Like when Garrett Hampson's not on the team next year, it's not because they've traded him.
I'm talking about actual trades.
2.5 feels like a good
2.5
of trades where we go, that's a trade. That one counts. Yeah.